Okay, so I'm going to do something a little different this time around. I'm going to post a slightly longer content video, and I'm going to talk about the treatment that I've been receiving for my Hodgkin's lymphoma. And, because I've posted a couple other videos about this already. I posted one very long one. This one I'm going to try to keep at 20 minutes. So, pardon me a minute while I look at my phone. Again, I'm doing this a little bit more off the cuff. I haven't really prepared anything. I have sat down and kind of like thought about what I wanted to do for a video. I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to give myself a little longer. We're going to say 22 minutes. Start the timer now. So this will be a little bit longer than 22 minutes. I think I've already probably been talking for about a minute. um, so I I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma on February 1st of this year. So it is now April 5th. I began treatment. I began receiving treatment on March 12th. I've so far received two treatments of ABVD, which is a chemotherapy. And don't ask me what the A one stands for, but the most commonly known name of that drug is doxorubicin. The B is bleomycin. V is vinblastine, and D is dacarbazine. And so that's the drugs. It's very standard. It's considered gold standard first line Hodgkin's lymphoma treatment, regardless of stage or progression of the disease. You're most likely as or I would not even say most likely, I would say always in 2024, if you have Hodgkin's lymphoma, you are going to receive those four drugs. Um, it is more likely because there is another protocol. Actually, I take that back. I've done quite a bit of like reading up on it. So there's another acronym, the BEAOCCP, and I'm not as familiar with that one. The only thing I know about that, it still involves using dacarbazine, doxorubicin, bleomycin, but there's a heavier use of steroid. They use prednisolone, and there's a few other different drugs in there. And that other protocol is used in generally more advanced stages, and it's more commonly used in Europe. Um, the but for me, so the treatment was ABVD. My staging when I after I got diagnosed, my PET scan, they staged me as stage one favorable, and this was largely due to the location of the inflammation, the particular lymph node of mine, which is no longer swollen. My treatment plan is going to be to do one more cycle of chemo, and then they're going to do radiation therapy. So I actually met with the radiologist yesterday. I had my first appointment with them. Uh, he explained a lot of how they do it, and it's a lot more targeted. They're gonna have a sit down appointment. They call it like a staging appointment, where you come in and they lay you down on the bed and they have you move around. They make a mold of your face and neck area, and they and then they kind of create a simulation. Radiation treatment is kind of interesting. It's unlike chemo, which is I get the infusion and 14 days later I get the next infusion, and then 14 days later I get I'm going to get another one. My next infusion is going to be on the 9th of April. With radiation, it's going to be like it's going to be 10 days. So it's going to be 5 days in a row. It's going to be Monday through Friday, and then another Monday through Friday. So, I'm part of my cough there. So that's how that's going to be. That's going to commence sometime in May. I don't know exactly when. I talked to the radiologist doctor about it. There is nothing scheduled yet. So we're waiting on that. Um, to complete the chemo first. So, like I said, next treatment I'm gonna get is on the 9th, and then I get another treatment on the 23rd, and then in probably the second week of May, I'm going to get another PET scan, and we are going to see if we can commence radiation therapy. Uh, so why the combination? So, or why even did they talk about a treatment plan if there's still this question of another PET scan? Well, so they need to do a follow-up PET scan to, number one, see did I have a complete response to the chemotherapy. What we're hoping to see in the PET scan is uh, I forget the technical term they call it, like, but it would be like no evidence of disease. There should be nothing lighting up, with the exception of there's a few organs that are considered okay to light up on a PET scan. I believe it's like your kidneys and your bladder, and I want to say like I just remember those two. There's a few others that are fine to light up on a PET, but anything else that lights up on a PET scan, that's considered abnormal cells. So my first PET scan, my neck area was lighting up significantly, and everything else looked clear. There was a very, very faint light up in a lymph node in my chest, um, but nothing they assumed was active. They actually wrote that in the report. Hey, we're assuming this is active, but it's barely even registering. When I looked at the actual image, you couldn't even really tell. Like there was just like a little bit of color there. So, um, if the response is not complete, like if I'm still lighting up, at all, even that like kind of light amount, I'm probably gonna have to do another cycle of chemotherapy, no matter what. And based on what my original oncologist was telling me, if that's the way it ends up going, then I might just forego radiation entirely, because kind of the goal of the combo therapy, using radiation in conjunction with the chemo, and kind of like the way that my Hodgkin's presented, uh, allowed them to do it, to even present that sort of combo. That's kind of like why they presented that as a treatment plan, assuming that I get a clear PET scan next time, because it allows less overall chemo to be used. Now, historically, chemotherapy, I'm sorry, I misspoke, radiation therapy was the only, back before I want to say the 1960s, 1970s, uh, before they came up with something called like the MOP protocol, and I don't know what the drugs are off the top of my head. So if you just want to look up MOPP in Google, you'll find the original Hodgkin's lymphoma chemotherapy. Before chemo was a thing, this particular cancer had a very poor prognosis, and the only way to treat it was with radiation therapy. Um, the thing about Hodgkin's lymphoma is it is a blood cancer, so it is very difficult to use. Radiation therapy is very good if you know where the tumor is, if like you're able to zero in exactly where the cancer cells are. If you catch it early, like let's say it's like a skin cancer, um, and I'm not a doctor, so like oncologist would answer this better. But the more centrally located it is, like the less hit in different spots that you have to do. So, um, I mean that's why the oncologist gave me that prognosis, was based on the PET scan, based on the symptoms I was presenting with. No B symptoms, just swollen lymph node in the neck. The PET scan only showed activity in the neck. Um, then they could use less chemo, potentially. So we have to wait until the next PET scan. So, with that said, what about symptoms this time around? Well, Let me tell you, some of them have been better, some of them have been worse. I have been significantly more fatigued uh, on treatment, on the second treatment for this first round. I For a while there, I was sleeping about 12 to 14 hours a day. Not during the first week right after treatment. So I had my last treatment on March 26th. Yeah. Yeah. So it was like last week on Tuesday. Um, and the reason I wasn't sleeping 12 to 14 hours is I cannot sleep that much on the dexamethasone. The first 3 days after you receive first 3 days after I received the chemo infusion, I was taking a supportive steroid, and while I'm able to sleep on that, I do not sleep well. That drug is horrible, but it is important to take it because it keeps my inflammation down, and it makes all the other side effects from the chemotherapy less. So that's the biggest one is really fatigue. Once I come off that, that's when the sleeping began. So all over the weekend, and really, I didn't really start to feel better from a fatigue standpoint until yesterday. And even today, I started to kind of fatigue out a little bit, but I'm getting a lot better. And one of the things that has been better for that I've just kind of gotten better at noticing when it's happening, so I can kind of pull the plug and just be like, all right, I need to back off. Heavily cognitive tasks and physical activity are like the two things that are gonna drain my batteries the fastest. Um, uh, the Swinging my kettlebells more so than walking, and as far as cognitive tasks like doing my regular job, I'm an accountant, so that's kind of like my 9 to 5. I'm also a public accountant, and it's tax season. So even though there's plenty of work to go around, I just can't do it right now. Like I'm not able to like stick with it too long. Um, so any task that requires a lot of like analytical thinking, a lot of paying attention to detail, uh, needing to needing to really drill down and doing a lot of certain parts of my job are kind of easy to do. Like I actually find, which is one of the reasons why I've gotten more into making videos lately, is I find that this task is not nearly as draining. The planning, the thinking about like what I want to talk about, that part is can be a bit more tiring, and which is why I've been kind of favoring. Uh, I'll take a couple of days to kind of think about what I want to make, but I still haven't been too scripted, and I do want to get more into making the scripted content. See, the disadvantage of making it this way, as I just noticed, is like they get a little bit of that mental drift. So I'm starting to kind of wander off topic. But talking about side effects. So yeah, fatigue is the big one, and I think that's the one that most people that go through this get the most. Um, the other one is the other one that's notable that I would say is uh, GI issues. I'm just gonna throw it out there as kind of a general one. I know a lot of people have issues with nausea, and I luckily have not to this point, and I feel like I should knock on wood because I've been lucky in that regard. The chemotherapy has not touched my appetite. If anything, I've been voracious. I've had the same appetite as though I was still training 4 days a week, really hard with the kettlebells and running on top of it, which technically I wasn't doing before I started the chemo. My lead-in training schedule, also because like I said, I'm a tax accountant, was kind of more like just kettlebells. I wasn't doing a lot of extra cardio, but lately my appetite's been expressing itself more like the way I was training last summer, where I was doing 3 days a week of kettlebells, and I was also running on top of that 2 days a week, or running, or doing a running day and a biking day, or a running day and a rowing day. Basically, like some kind of moderate intensity or higher, or kind of like moderate to higher intensity cardio. Uh, still have my appetite, but the lower GI issues tend to manifest themselves more in constipation, and this time around, a combination of constipation and diarrhea, uh, which is not fun when I oscillated between both of those extremes. um, I would mostly describe it as being sort of like your GI tract being hit the reset button. If you've ever, I'm very sensitive to the whole digestive process, and the chemo drugs, I can tell it just makes everything slow down, that whole lower digestive tract. So, um, yeah, let's just say that that was the other big one. Somewhat managed through the use of senna, which is a really good drug. It's a laxative, natural laxative. But I know part of the reason why I ended up getting more of the bubons, as John Stewart would call it, is because I probably went a little too aggressive on the senna. So, again, lesson learned. You don't need to take 4 tablets if you're still not pooping, y'all. Uh, and I was trying to get ahead of it. I had only gone a day, and I think technically that's still not constipation, but normally I'm incredibly regular, and so that was kind of that thing. Other side effects. Still have some neuropathy in the tips of my fingers, specifically the part of the finger that meets the nail, so kind of like right here. Now I can still feel pressure, but that fine touch sensitivity is a little bit dulled. Aside from that, the neuropathy is actually better this time around, not as bad as the first time. Um, During that first treatment, the nurse kind of, when they landed the IV in my left arm, I'm pretty sure they ended up hitting my nerve, which is why A, I had worse neuropathy the first time, and B, I just felt it so much more. Um, the drug responsible for neuropathies, by the way, is the dacarbazine. You can kind of feel it tingling as it's going in. It burns. So yeah, that one. I am losing a lot of hair now. I If I tilt down, you can kind of see that the top of my scalp is, yeah, kind of like randomly bald. So uh, not exactly bald, but I say give it another week. I have another treatment coming up. Definitely after that other treatment, I'll probably be completely bald by the end of this process. Uh, you know, probably. So like I said, last treatment 23rd of April. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I'll probably be completely bald by then. And yeah, like the only other side effects, but I know the doctors aren't going to say these are side effects associated with it, is um, I probably have lost a little bit of muscle, but my scale weight looks exactly the same. So there's that. I notice it more in my arms. I might have not lost it yet though, so like they're still holding out hope. I'm kind of hoping to get through this process with kind of holding the same weight, but maybe like having my body fat percentage go up by like 5% or something. I mean, that's kind of like ideal. I still am lifting weights when I can on the off weeks. So during chemo week, when I'm taking the steroid, not touching the weight. It's just too much of an injury risk in my opinion, and honestly, the steroid just masks things too much. I don't like not feeling, how truly fatigued I might be or how truly strained I might be. So on the off, so I'm basically training like every other week, and still having to do lighter. So there's going to be some loss. But the docs have really drilled it in me like, we don't want you losing weight. So I'm just not worrying about putting the fork down. I'm just making sure that I'm eating my fruits and vegetables, getting enough protein in. If I'm hungry, I'm eating. And I've continued to stay hungry. And yeah, like brain fog. That is the other side effect. So I didn't expect the cognition to take such a big hit, but like I said, and that's one of the things that's just as fatiguing, if not more. So we're down to about 2.5 minutes now. Um, and I hope I didn't ramble too much. I hope I was able to kind of give you an overview of what it's like to go through chemotherapy for Hodgkin's lymphoma, and like what some of the side effects of ABVD are. Everybody's are different. I know this. I know that mine. I am getting somewhat different ones than what other people might get, and I know that I still might get other ones that I haven't gotten yet, or they might also improve over time. Uh, Trying to stay as positive as possible, which is really difficult. It's hard to stay positive, and especially in light of this. I've been really struggling mentally to kind of find a new way to accept myself this way. The fact that I have cancer, and I'm still trying to like survive it, and I'm still trying to not lose everything that I've had, that I kind of built my life around. I was making fitness such a cornerstone of my life because I wanted to live a long life, and I also really enjoyed it. I like found a routine I really liked, and some things I really enjoyed doing with the kettlebell sport and the running and just playing rec sports and just being active, and it's fun, and I love it, and I want to get back out there and do it, but I gotta wait another month before I can do that. So to everybody out there who's watched this so far, I appreciate it. Please like the video, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'm gonna try to be making some more professional looking stuff. You can check me out on Instagram at Elias the Stark. It'd be Elias underscore the underscore Stark. I post a lot more stuff there, and I'm gonna be trying to do some more stuff here. And tomorrow evening, I'm gonna go live here on YouTube's, and we're gonna be doing it. I don't know. I'm gonna go live for at least about the length of this video, 20 minutes or so. But it might go longer, 30 minutes to an hour. Ask me some questions. I'll go into some more. I'm gonna let the timer go off because that was the thing that I wanted to use to tell me like, hey, let's keep this shorter. So until next time, I bid you adieu. Have a good evening.